This is a Global Player original podcast. I've got a good one for you this week. These clips are from the late summer 2020, and following on from last week, we were all stunned by a completely square £360,000 sheep. The confected rage about being able to sing Land of Hope and Glory filled the air, and I was upset with roads. Good Shepherd tweets, go sober for October. This week Macmillan announced that, as 2020 had already been quite a challenge, you can choose to have a sober-ish October. I'm going to Banksy the mornings. Are you okay to do the afternoons? What, all afternoon? Did they really? Is that true?
Yeah, I saw a thing about it.
Yeah, we know that life has been throwing us some... Is curveballs a cricketing thing, or is it baseball? I don't know. I mean, they're both such fascinating sports.
Boring!
But life has been throwing us some curveballs as of late. So, Sober October is cancelled. Now we're going to do Sober-ish October. It's like, oh, forget it. Yeah, never mind. We can only give up so many things at once. Natalie tweets, hello Nick, what a perfect encapsulation of Boris was Britain. Is the possibility that a failed Aussie PM may be a UK trade envoy? Land of hopeless Tories. Land of hopeless Tories. Yeah, we had to go to the other end of the world, literally as far away as you can possibly go without coming back again to find somebody who has the expertise required to land as a trade deal. You know, a trade deal, the likes of which we already enjoy on excellent terms, but only because we were part of a rainbow coalition. Now, of course, we're bobbing around on our own in choppy waters, rudderless. Yeah, literally rudderless. Where is Boris, by the way? Has anybody seen him lately?
No.
Scott says, thanks for the show. No, thank you.
Thank you.
He's just being polite.
Be polite.
He says, thanks for the show. It's kept us sane while waiting for our first child. You now have your youngest fan, Winnie, 2 days old. Shut up, Winnie. Just grow up. Stop being so childish. Jamie and Gray said, if the government bought the sheep and sent it back, it would be a U-return instead. If the government bought the sheep and sent it back, it would be a U-return. Oh, I'm in pain. Not even in a Christmas cracker, Jamie. You should be ashamed of yourself. 0345 6060 96. I still haven't got back onto this song thing yet. I'm amazed that people aren't more furious about that. Maybe the fury has dissipated over the past couple of days. I bet people were yelling at each other on the radio. I bet they were. Cactus Jack tweets, Nick, am I the only one that sees the irony of Chris Grayling resigning from a committee with intelligence in its title? Ian texts, Nick, Trump will get in for a second term. He has Biden, just like Boris had Corbyn. Both are unelectable. Why don't they see it? Well, Joe Biden is not unelectable. Jeremy Corbyn proved unelectable. I'd say mostly because of the campaign of destruction that was levelled at him by the billionaire offshore press. Petrified they were that he was going to interfere with their business model. There's a big hum in here, by which I don't mean a smell. Can you hear that?
It's like the aircon.
Yeah, no, it isn't. Something else. Don't worry. I'm a professional and I'll work through it. James says, why couldn't the Johnson be like the Japanese Prime Minister and resign honourably? And if we need, we can always find it again through contract tasting. What does that mean? And if we need to, we can always find it again. It. You just want me to play the clip? Like you're using me, like I'm a puppet? I won't. And Johnny emails, don't pretend you don't remember Humphrey. I'm only 54 and you're in your 60s. Well, that's offensive. Only just. Humphrey was a promotional cartoon character by Unigate Milk designed to make children pester their mothers to buy Unigate Milk. Every week, customers got a Humphrey sticker. It was a red and white striped straw-shaped sticker. This was approximately 1975. I do not recall that, but in 1975, I was 15. And I was too busy, probably pestering my mother to buy Brutus jeans and shoes that were brown and black with platform soles. Oh, God, the stuff we used to wear.
Dreadful.
The 70s. I mean, clothes in the 70s, hairstyles, just everything about the 1970s, apart from the art, by which I mean the music, the cinema, and the actual art, was terrible. Apart from, the culture, everything else was abysmal. The way people looked was just so bad. Why did we look like that? Could we not see? Did they not have mirrors in the 1970s?
No.
Well, maybe that's the answer. Let's have Manchester. Louise.
Hi, Nick. Happy belated birthday.
Oh,
Hope you
thanks.
enjoyed it.
Cheers, I did.
Okay, right. Spitting image, whenever that comes on the screen. I have a perfect playground for Boris, actually, because he does like his whack-a-moling, doesn't he? He likes the word, and because that's actually a playground game, isn't it not?
Whack-a-mole? No, it's isn't it a
Croquet, like.
no? It's not a playground game. It's a game that you play in an amusement arcade.
That's what I mean. Sorry, I mean that. Whatever.
Well, the two aren't similar at all.
Oh, I'm sorry, but you know what I mean. It's an ish thing, isn't it? Really, ish thing. And also, the thing is, we're following Scotland. I was in Scotland at the independent, the indie thing, and up near Donald Dewar's statue. And they seem to be following. There was plenty for sort of like cars, speeding. And also, everybody's ends seem to be getting fit. So I think Scotland are way ahead of the game, because 20 is plenty here now. And we're all being told
did that start in Scotland? 20 is plenty.
Well, I remember when the indie vote was on.
Yeah.
And it must have been there before that, because the signs didn't look brand new,
Right.
It was up near Calvin Grove, near the museum and art gallery.
Yeah, there's too many. There's too many 20-mile-an-hour zones. Like I don't object to it at all, and I am the only one that goes 20 miles an hour in a 20-mile-an-hour zone, by the way. And it's a very, very stressful experience, because everybody else behind me is going berserk. Their heads are exploding, spraying the inside of their cars with their brain matter, and so it is very stressful, because there's no rule, there's no policing of it. There's no cameras, there's no average speed cameras, which is the only thing that anybody pays any attention to.
Exactly. The nice thing with death, when you go across, well, not a beat crossing, but when it's like a pelican crossing, like with those orange lights on, the bloody car speed's got right. When you get halfway across, you've got a car speeding at you, and you're thinking, bloody hell, let me get out of the way quick.
All right, calm down, Louise. It's not that serious. Well, it is quite serious. Thanks, Louise. 20-mile-an-hour zones. And what's happened just lately, and is really increasing, pretty much every time I go onto the road, there's more and more of them. They're closing roads off. Blimey, Balham in the south of London is virtually unnegotiable now. They've closed almost all roads off. It took 20 minutes to get through maybe 100 yards. Yeah, which for younger people is the same as about 300 metres. 100 yards equals about 300 metres. It took about 20 minutes to get through, just because of this giant, really slow-moving jam to get through traffic lights, because they've closed all the roads off, like all of them. They're all bicycle only now, which must be a delight for the people that live on those roads, but it's a total nightmare for anybody that wants to get about by car, which is what we're supposed to be doing, surely, because the government is telling us not to go on public transport. So on the one hand, it adds to the confusing message. Does anybody have any idea what the message is now?
No.
I mean, not a clue. I wonder if they know. Do they know what they're supposed to be telling us now? Because I've given up trying to figure it out. Stay in, but go out. Don't use public transport, but use public transport. So now they're encouraging us to go back onto the roads. Don't use public transport, which means cars for most people. But you can't use your car because we've closed all the roads. I mean, pick one. It's as though the government is not joined up. It's as though it's a competing mass of different objectives that are all pulling in opposite directions. It's as though the person at the top hasn't really got a handle on it.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
But I know that can't be true. Otherwise we'd be in real trouble. Yeah, there's so many of those roads, and they're putting blocks up, and I get if you're right in the centre of town and you want to close what used to be a high street, make it pedestrianised, but get coffee shops to put chairs in the street because they can't fit as many people as they used to inside, and that will keep them going until around about now, where it starts to get colder and it rains all the time, and then they'll have to take those chairs and tables away. What they're going to do in the winter, I've got no idea, because this thing ain't going anywhere, and we're not going to get a vaccine anytime soon. Don't pin your hopes on that. And so when the weather really changes, and they all have to pile their furniture back indoors, then what's going to happen? God, it's like the consequence of not the virus, but our reactions to it. The consequences haven't really played out yet. I mean, we have an inkling. We know what's coming. We have a foretaste. It's like we've seen a trailer of forthcoming attractions, and it's like a horror film. But it hasn't actually played out yet. But it will. But I get that they want to pedestrianise some roads, make them more friendly for people walking. Because I walk. You can't go everywhere by car. At some point you've got to park it and get out. But they're making it very difficult to get around town, and I'm sure that's probably the case where you are. They've taken the opportunity of us being indoors to make it more difficult for us to get about once we all are encouraged back out again, which rather undermines the message that we must all come back out again. I mean, if you brick somebody's front door up while they're indoors, and then try to encourage them back out again, well, you've created an impediment. Unless I'm getting any of this wrong, in which case you must correct me. But as I said, I don't mind 20 mile an hour limits. I'm perfectly fine with that, except for the fact that nobody else is. And because they're not police, because they don't have average speed cameras, which are the only things that anybody pays any attention to, the only things that cow a road user, then people just go berserk at the very idea that somebody is obeying the speed limit. How dare you, they say to themselves while shouting obscenities at me through their windscreen. And the tailgating, oh God. I mean, I want rear-mounted machine guns on my car. I pay my taxes, why can't I have them?
Nick Abbott on LBC.
Hang about, Nick. Listen. Now, what I'm trying to say to you is this, Nick, right?
Right, so as I was saying, Eamon Holmes and Nigel Farage clashed with activist Femi Olawole this morning after he claimed that most people don't really care about whether Rule Britannia or Land of Hope and Glory are sung at the proms. Completely correct in every respect. Most people don't care, and I'll prove it to you. The BBC blamed the lack of an audience and called the decision a creative one, but Director General Lord Hall confirmed the song's links to to colonialism.
Affirmative.
Were taken into account. How can people who claim to love their country deny the existence of the history of that country? Their delusion is so great they can't countenance anything bad ever happened here. It's fake nationalism. They aren't proud of their country, they're proud of the fantasy of their country, in which nary a bad word is said, and if it is, then it's aimed at minorities, and they should get a sense of humour. We're only joking. For 100 years they've only been joking. Funny, no?
No.
On daytime television, Eamon Holmes asked Mr. I presume it's Olawole. If it's not that, then I apologise, but Olawole is what it looks like. Mr. Olawole, who sports Black Lives Matter, Eamon Holmes asked him why he had an issue with the lyrics of Rule Britannia. And Mr. Olawole said, well, to be honest, I don't watch the proms. Most people don't really care about that song because we almost never sing it. But as for that song specifically, it was written at a time that the UK was actively engaged in the slave trade, selling people across the waves, selling black slaves, so they were singing about how we ourselves will never be slaves. Well, that's right, isn't it? And then he said, if I were used to use an analogy, can you imagine if a rapist, and this is not an exaggeration because slavery involved a lot of rape, he said, if a rapist wrote a song about he himself had never been raped, would you sing that song? No, because you know that song would be bragging about that rapist's position at the top of the food chain. We would never sing that, which sounds perfectly reasonable. Only a fool would disagree with that, he said, desperately trying to find the thing. Where is it? Ah, yes. Shall I set it up again? That sounds perfectly reasonable. Only a fool would disagree with that.
This is absolute tosh.
As the debate intensified, Nigel Farage dismissed Mr. Femi as an extremist. He said, if you're at home getting angry at what Femi is saying, please don't. He represents a tiny extremist minority. The vast majority, huge majority of Britons are tolerant, open, decent people, Mr. Farage said. From his post overlooking the booking hall at the Dover Hotel he's observing for foreigners checking in. This Morning, that's the name of the show on TV, which you probably haven't seen it because, you know, you've got stuff to do. The This Morning guests were asked their thoughts on the Prime Minister's condemnation of the corporation's, quotes, cringing embarrassment about our history, adding that he could not believe the BBC's decision to censor the anthems. Boris Johnson couldn't. Mr. Olawole said it's essentially just him, Boris Johnson, trying to provoke a culture war to distract from everything he's done. Oh my God, this guy should be the Prime Minister. He's just trying to provoke people. He knows that it plays well to his base. He knows that he can use this to say they're coming after your culture, to stir up people. Completely correct in every respect. It's like everything this government does, they think, what would Donald Trump do? And then they do that. I mean, the whole country's going to the dogs. The only people to benefit have been those who are what you'd call the donor class, those with the money to gift millions to the political party of their choice. The billionaire class has increased its wealth by an enormous amount since this virus robbed the rest of us of our future. But don't get angry about that. There's a dinghy over there. Or there's a TV celebrity saying something vaguely leftish. Or now we can't sing our own very patriotic song that not one single one of us would know the lyrics to. And we wouldn't sing it even if we did, unless we were drunk.
Booze.
Mr. Farage said today he was very pleased that Boris Johnson said what he did, adding that the BBC had things hopelessly wrong. I mean, here's a man who wants to reside in the 1970s. You know, when you could call a spade and you could speak your mind and certain people knew their place. Things change. It's not the Wheel Tappers and Shunters Club on TV now, you know. Keep up, Grandad. Farage said the overwhelming majority of people in this country who care about this want the proms to be as they've always been. That's a nice little get-out-of-jail card there. The majority of people in this country who care about it, is what he said. Do we care?
Negative.
No, we don't, and I can prove it. Mr. Oluwole said that song was an issue because it's a distraction, adding that these people want to distract from the fact that Boris Johnson, with his majority of MPs, could do things to address systemic racism. Instead, Boris Johnson is saying we shouldn't be embarrassed by slavery. He said Nigel Farage spends his weekends in a boat in the Channel shouting at asylum seekers. They want to distract you from the things that they've done. Everything that guy says is correct. Farage said, it's very interesting, isn't it, that people like Femi, who were opposed to the result of the referendum, wanted it to be overturned, are the same people who want to denigrate this country, not just its history, but its present as well. He says, if you're at home getting angry at what Femi is saying, please don't. He represents a tiny extremist minority. Nigel Farage wasn't looking in the mirror when he said that. He said the vast majority, huge majority of Britons are tolerant, open, decent people. We are without doubt the most tolerant country in the whole of Europe. We want racial equality and fairness in our society. What we don't want is a campaign that masquerades under Black Lives Matter that effectively is a Marxist campaign to bring down this country, to end capitalism, worst of all, their stated aim, defund the police. What are you talking about, you dyspeptic toad? The BBC not showing people singing lyrics to a song that none of us know is part of the plot to end capitalism and defund the police. I mean, where do you even start? First off, wrong country, Nige. You're just parroting Donald Trump's go-to lies. Defunding the police is an American thing that is quite justified and doesn't mean banning the police. It means taking some of the vast amount of funding for the increasing militarization of the police in America and using it to prevent crime, rather than using the police as a way to funnel huge numbers of black people into the privately run for-profits prison system over there. That's what defund the police means. And as for ending capitalism, who wants to end capitalism? I mean, there isn't any other way to live. What absolutely should be happening is improving capitalism so that all of the spoils do not end up in the hands of a tiny number of billionaires and now trillionaires. Spreading the wealth around a bit, allowing the workers to actually benefit from the value they bring to a company is a good thing. It's not communism. It's how capitalism should actually work. I mean, the only people who have not seen their wealth increase over the past 50 years are the bottom 99%. Is an indication that things are not going well for anyone but those at the very top. I mean, that's capitalism twisted. It's oligarchism, really. I mean, it's government for the few and kleptocracy. Rampant greed and corruption. That's not capitalism. I mean, who could have, apart from those who are sat at the top table? And they are the ones, of course, with the megaphones. The billionaire press barons. And that despite twisting all that to equate Black Lives Matter to ending capitalism and the police, I mean, it's just such a pathetically weak attempt to get the permanently furious and the always complaining to start shouting at the television.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
It's so obvious and crass, it's hard to believe that anybody falls for it. But they do.
We've got a few idiots in our party.
Just enough. Mr. Oluwole said, in Rule Britannia, we were bragging about ourselves not being slaves while we were enslaving other countries. And Farage hit back saying, all our countries are forged by their history. We have some parts of it that we're proud of and some that we aren't. The fact that whenever you look back at British history, we've been the country that has fought for liberty and that has fought against slavery. So let's be proud of our past and stop extremists like Femi from tearing it down. It's whitewashing history. Proud of the bits that we've erected statues to celebrate the people that have won wars, proud of those parts, but ignoring or pretending that the other parts that we should be less comfortable with didn't happen. And apart from anything else, it's a song. And people like Farage have got the nerve to call others snowflakes. I mean, the right wing are more sensitive and delicate, and their feelings more easily hurt than the old dears that Maggie Smith usually plays, constantly clutching at their pearls. Ugh. Ron texts, Nick, the 70s were great. Lots of Seasons in the Sun. Oh, Terry Jacks. How can I remember that? I can barely remember what I did last weekend, but I can remember that Seasons in the Sun was by Terry Jacks. I bet that is actually correct. Without looking it up, off the top of my head. Seasons in the Sun by Terry Jacks. You want to check on that for me? No, he doesn't. Busy. He's having a chat. And School's Out for Summer was, of course, Alice Cooper.
Rock and roll!
School's Out Forever. What's not to like, apart from the hairstyles, of course, says Ron. Monica in Northern Ireland says, Nick, I never watch Last Night at the Proms as I find it cringingly embarrassing. The audience are like old Top of the Pops groups in the 60s, miming very badly. They don't know the words either. It's a Brit thing, says Monica, from the north of Ireland, R. And that's her putting that in, not me. I would never do that. Because it's offensive. Yeah, I don't watch any of that either. And this idea that the whole of the country was outraged by it is not true. People that say that are disseminating misinformation. Liar! And I can prove it. I've got the evidence that we don't care. That this entire thing was just whipped up confected ire. What's that?
I didn't understand that.
Well, I'm not talking to you. Shut up. Why did my phone just burst into action? It's not even Google. It's, I didn't understand that. Here are some capsules you can try. Capsules it's offering me now.
Want to score some pot?
No, thank you. I'm doing a show. I mean, I've got it on mute. It's ignoring my instructions not to make a sound. It's not a smartphone. It's a stupid phone. They are actually stupid, aren't they? I mean, we think that it's the best thing since sliced cheese, but they're not at all. They're idiots. You can do the same thing every day. I was talking about this last week, I'm sure. You can do the same thing every day. You can get up at the same time and you can go and catch the same train and go to the same location to work every single day. It knows you're going. I mean, half of the time you're paying for the train by swiping the phone over a card reader. You take it with you, it knows where it is. And does it alert you to the fact that your train is running late?
No.
Does it tell you that it's going to be raining today, you might need an umbrella?
Negative.
It doesn't do any of the things that a smartphone should do. You have to manually look up those things. You've got to check what the weather is. Yourself. You've got to see if the train is running on time by opening an app. Digital Assistant, my eye. They're not smartphones, they're stupid phones. And I hate them. 0345 6060 973. James says Extinction Rebellion's upcoming bank holiday protests to close London's roads, especially the city, don't need to go ahead as our wonderful mayor has done it already. Yeah, thanks a lot, Mayor.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Stuart in New Cross says, completely understand about these idiot tailgaters on the road. Like you, I'm happy with 20 miles an hour. As a driving instructor, the number of drivers tooting and just generally driving aggressively all rounders never ceases to amaze me. What can we do about it, Nick? Modifications, Stuart. Aftermarket rocket launchers, front and back. Who's with me? You're not allowed to have them. It's probably an EU thing. God. Not allowed to do anything these days. Alex texts, Forever Changes by Love, still one of the best albums ever. No, it's not. No, it isn't. It isn't. People keep saying that it is, but it isn't. Forever Changes by Love. There's that one track, which is good. The rest of it, meh. Anyway, what's that got to do with what we're talking about? It was in him, and it had to come out. Linda in Lancaster says, I wish last night of the proms was the last night of the proms forever. Simon in the Docklands says, if you think Balham is bad, part of Park Lane has been turned from 4 lanes into 1. What? You're joking. Euston Road is down from 3 lanes to 1 outside Euston Station. Around Greenwich Market, similarly. Bozo, Shaps and Khan. Get rid of a lot of them, says Simon in the Dockland. Yeah, we could put them all on a cart and drive them out of town. Really slowly. Mark in London emails, you and the other Lib Dems lost. Get over it. You remember the Lib Dems, don't you?
No.
Oh, there used to be a thing. About 100 years ago. This show's educational, ain't it?
No.
Matt says, just got back from my 111 shift. What does that mean? My 111 shift. What does that mean?
It's emergency services.
Oh, 111, right. What is the number for 111, by the way? Anybody know? I've just got back from my 111 shift. That's not emergencies, that's for things that aren't an emergency, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry, it's the other one, isn't it?
Yeah. The other one is 999.
Yes, that's right, of course.
What's that number?
Very good.
Just got back from my 111 shift. It's a long ride from St Leonard's to Boscombe, so plenty of time to think. Trump says that Biden will bring chaos and socialism to America, but do you have any inkling of what A, Trump, and B, the average American, believes socialism actually is? Well, didn't Donald Trump give, I don't know what the exact amount was, so I'll make it up, $95 billion to the farmers of America? You know, as a bailout because the Chinese weren't buying their soya anymore. This stupid confected row with China. China. Yeah, and constantly bailing out the coal mines and bailing out the oil giants and bailing out the fracking industry, and they like socialism in America as long as the money goes to giant corporations. As long as the money is going to the rich, they love the idea of socialism. But if it's going to the little people, not leprechauns, then they get very, very upset indeed. What's amazing to me is that the poor get very upset at the idea of the poor getting a larger slice of the cake. That's how well they've been trained. And same there, same here. We know our place. And that's it. If you subscribe to this podcast, the next episode will get squirted up your life as though by magic on Mondays. And don't forget the other podcast that I do. There's the one that I do with Carol McGiffin called What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol, in which the delightful Carol McGiffin and I try to solve people's problems while laughing our faces off. There wasn't one this week because of a technical error, but we'll be back next week. If you want us to solve your problem, send it to nickandcarol@global.com. NICKANDCAROL @global.com. And be prepared for total satisfaction. And don't forget the one that I do, the podcast of the Friday and Saturday night shows called Nick Abbot, The Whole Show, which is a condensed version of those shows. We take the news and the ads out, which means it takes less time to listen to. You'll use less electricity. And when your fuel bill comes in this autumn, you still won't be able to pay it. And I'll be back on the radio Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. And until then, I'll be seeing you.
Bye-bye.